Southern Songs and Stories is a proud part of the lineup at both Public Radio WNCW and Osiris Media, the leading storyteller in music. Follow Southern Songs and Stories wherever you follow podcasts, with more at southernsongsandstories.com. You can engage with us on social media. Southern Songs and Stories is on Facebook at Southern Songs and Stories, on Instagram at South Stories, and my YouTube channel is Joe Kendrick NC. Hello, Southern Songs and Stories friend. Joe Kendrick here with an update and a preview of what's coming on the series. The last 2 weeks have turned so much upside down in my world, and everything started with a tropical storm hitting the Appalachians while I was at the IBMA Conference in Raleigh. Even going into IBMA, I was almost on fumes, having crammed, getting prepared for a big week away, arranging a schedule of interviews and earmarking events and panels, as well as producing the latest episode in this series, our podcast on Maya Vitry and Joel Timmons. Hope you can check it out if you haven't already. Anyhow, it was a frenetic and bittersweet week to begin with, owing to the fact that this was the last year for IBMA in North Carolina before moving west to Chattanooga starting in 2025. But everything that was good about the conference was quickly shoved aside as the horror of Helene unfolded on the news. Losing contact with my family for a full day leading up to my return, I had the surreal experience of being safe and largely unaffected by the storm in the state capital, watching footage of devastated floodwaters rise in cities like Asheville, while knowing that my family had no power and no communications in our home in the Piedmont, and therefore could not see the extent of the damage to counties to their west. I got home and endured one whole night and half the next day without power, so count me very lucky. We had no damage to the house, just a mess with limbs down and debris blown all over the place. As I say this, the aftermath of the storm is still unfolding. It destroyed so much that it's beyond comprehension. As my WNCW colleague Scotty Robertson, who lives in Asheville, told me, it's like walking around in a fever dream to see the havoc wreaked practically everywhere, especially anywhere near water. Many WNCW folks live in the mountains where communications were cut off for days, so it was an immediate challenge to fill in their shows with episodes from our archives. That process started with contacting everyone, which is more than 24 hosts, to find out how they were immediately after the storm passed. Luckily, everyone was safe and most had little or no damage to their homes. Even during the storm, but especially following it, WNCW kicked into a news and public information mode, acting as a conduit for information on how to help those in need, as well as how to get help in the wake of Helene. I interviewed a Charlotte Public Radio reporter in Linville first, then wound up being interviewed by USA Today, jumped on a press call with FEMA, and later took an interview with WXPN in Philadelphia. Thanks, Dan Reed. Everything became Helene, a torrent of emails giving information on supply distribution, ways to apply for aid, news on closures, you name it, all of it coming from many directions. Calls, texts, social media, all day long. Helene. Essentially a mode of taking in the disaster from all fronts for purposes of reporting on it, largely engulfing my workday. It hit me very soon, even before it was over, that this podcast would have to take a beat. All the interviews that I got at IBMA, great conversations with David Manconi, musician and label exec Ty Gilpin, and banjo innovator Trey Wellington, would have to wait. Those were added to a pre-existing line of interviews from the likes of Steve Earle, and all the interviews I got at the Earl Scruggs Music Festival from Lindsay Lou, Twisted Pine, and the Faux Pas. Yeah, sorry y'all. It was obvious that doing anything like the usual episode was not going to work in light of the tragedy in my own backyard. But don't despair, you'll get to hear all those artist episodes, Lord willing. In the meantime, get set for an episode focusing on the aftermath of Helene in western North Carolina and Asheville specifically, as I interview artists and professionals like Jesse Iaquinto from Fireside Collective, Liz Whalen Talent from the Orange Peel, Josh Blake from IMAVL, Russ Keith of the Great Eagle, and others in the music community. It may become more than one episode, that remains to be known. as I'm still conducting interviews and may wind up with enough material that one episode is just not enough. We'll see, and wish me luck, because there's more than the storm that has knocked us back on our heels around here. A week after Helene arrived, a dear friend of mine departed the world, Rob Daves. Rob was WNCW's voice of the Overnight Music Mix, the alternative show Arc Overnight, for the better part of 20 years. He was beloved by staff and listeners alike, and even though he had battled some health issues in recent years, it was still shocking to lose him. Whatever oxygen was left in the room following Helene was quickly sucked up by the void of Rob's loss, and we miss him greatly. With Arc Overnight, we're trying to pull that together with the help of Alex Nudd, who's a familiar voice to the wee hours, along with other WNCW hosts, including longtime volunteer Harry Strider. Arc totals 25 hours each week, spread over 6 nights, and that's a lot of music to play. Not to mention a lot of work screening, reviewing, and generally taking care of scores of singles, albums, and events that we field weekly here. Rob was also music director and programmer for ARC, so all the albums and singles and what we call the rotation for that show, he selected and shepherded. That's a big job to fill, and big shoes to fill, and possibly big shoes to fill for all things overnight on WNCW currently, but we're working through it. Next week, I start teaching a radio DJ and podcast production class at the community college that WNCW calls home, Isothermal, and that's going to demand a lot of attention for the next 8 weeks, but that's a good problem to have. Let me leave you with one of Rob Dave's favorite artists who calls Asheville, North Carolina home, Angel Olsen. I hope Angel made it through Helene okay, and I think she must have, because she announced on October 9th that she's part of a new benefit compilation titled Cardinals at the Window, with her song Can't Wait Until Tomorrow. It's part of that massive compilation. It's a whopping 136 previously unreleased tracks to benefit flood relief efforts in western North Carolina. All proceeds going to aid organizations Beloved Asheville, Community Foundation of Western North Carolina, and Rural Organizing and Resilience. Cardinals at the Window is out now. It's on Bandcamp. Go get you some. Now, the song I'm going to play you is not that new song, but one of Rob's favorites from Angel Olsen's last full album, 2022's Big Time. I'm Joe Kendrick, saying so long for now, leaving you with the title track to Angel Olsen's Big Time to close out this Southern Songs and Stories update.
Good morning, kisses, giving you all mine. Pull back the curtains, show me the sunshine. Needing this coffee, needing some nature. Need it right now, it can't wait until later. We're always busy, baby, not this time. Letting the tall grass, talking with your eyes, talking with your eyes. Before we knew